Hello, everyone. My name is Dominic Filipponi. I am the marketing coordinator for Dynamism, an industry leader in 3D printing solutions. Welcome to our live webinar. Thank you for joining to the Meet the Fuse 1 and Fuse 1 Plus webinar we're hosting today. Today, we're going to be going over the highly anticipated and newly announced Formlabs Fuse 1 Plus, as well as the already well-established Fuse 1. And we're also going to be covering some Fuse customer-based stories, and then time permitting, some Q&A. So Levi, if you want to hit the next slide for me. If you have any questions throughout today's webinar, please feel free to put them in the Q&A portion, and we will cover them near the end of the presentation. If it's urgent, I will make sure to read them and present them to Levi as he is going through his slides here. Levi, you can do next slide. Thank you. As I said, my name is Dominic Filipponi. I am the marketing coordinator, and I am joined by Levi Smith, the U.S. Channel Sales Manager from Formlabs, our great partner, as well as being joined by Dynamism's own Haraj. Haraj is our Director of Enterprise Solutions. He's our industrial sales guru. So if you have any questions, his contact information will be at the end of this presentation. Next slide, please, Levi. So just a little agenda for today. We're going to be doing a quick overview of who Dynamism is, of course, who Formlabs is, the industry legend they are. What is SLS? A little Fuse 1 refresh. What is the Fuse 1? And some case studies for the Fuse 1. And also the highly anticipated Fuse 1 Plus that I said just released last week. And then, of course, ending with those Q&A questions. So who are we? We are essentially, in a nutshell, a reseller of industry-leading and top-selling 3D printers, 3D printing technology, material, software, you name it, we got it. We're also a kind of service provider. So if anyone needed samples, prototypes, anything like that built out, we have our own service called DMOD, Dynamism Manufacturing on Demand, that we and our team of engineers handle. So if anyone had sampling questions, you'd reach out to DMOD, they'd get it done. We're also worldwide international. We have locations in Asia, Europe, and offices across the United States, with our headquarters, of course, being in the Chicagoland area. Next here. Like I said, we have a lot of products. We, of course, carry Formlabs' great products. We have Ultimaker. We have all the big brands. We don't just do 3D printers, though. We have materials, like I said. We have a lot of different parts, other software options, and some cool stuff like scanners and telepresence robotics. So if you wanted to work from a remote location, you'd have one of our double robotics that you see there on staff. But if you are interested in our products, go ahead and go to our website. We have a ton. And of course, brands, top performing brands like the Formlabs, like Ultimaker, Nexa. We're really establishing our industrial pipeline here. So like I said, if you're interested, go ahead and visit our website. But without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Levi to cover some Formlabs Fuse materials. So go ahead, Levi.
Awesome, Dom. I really appreciate kind of the introduction there. Again, my name's Levi. I'm with Formlabs. I'm the U.S. Channel Sales Manager. I work with the likes of Dynamism, the rest of our terrific value-added resellers here in the U.S. market. Been with them for about 4 years. It's been an exciting rocket ship style journey. But again, very excited to be here presenting. Again, the Fuse 1 Plus is an exciting technology. It's the first iteration on the Fuse 1. Really excited to kind of tell that story. But just before I kind of get into who Formlabs is, I always like to touch on who our partners are. And, you can look at Formlabs, right? We focus purely on partners that can extend the user experience that we expect into markets that we don't necessarily have access to. And that's really what we're looking for. Someone who's got the same passion, ambition, drive, and the ability to extend our user experience. And that's usually what you're going to see with Dynamism, right? I mean, across the board, this is what you're going to see with all our partners, but our partners in general really extend that experience. And most important, are agnostic, right? They carry some of the best-in-class technology out there. And Dynamism specifically are agnostic. That's why they carry these best-in-class brands. So I always encourage folks, Formlabs, obviously, I have a biased opinion here, but all you have to do is go to Dynamism with that application problem, and they're going to have an agnostic approach to solving and driving a solution with your organization. So hopefully it's Formlabs, but again, they carry a best-in-class breed of technology to select from. So with that said, just a quick introduction on Formlabs, who we are, what we're about. Our goal at Formlabs for the last decade has been to expand access to digital fabrication so anyone can make anything. And that really just comes down to democratizing this type of technology. At Formlabs, we do focus on SLA and SLS technology, but it really comes down to two key questions since we started at Formlabs, and that is, how do we make this technology easy? How do we make it versatile? In terms of answering that first question, how do we make it easy to use? Well, first, 40 to 50% of our users have little to no 3D printing experience before using our products. That's both the SLA and SLS lines. And second to that, it's easy to afford. In terms of versatility, that comes down to material applications and materials available. When we first launched the newest version of our SLA line, I think we had maybe 8 to 15 materials. We now have over 30 plus materials. And at Formlabs, we're very R&D heavy. That's how we're able to iterate, come out with the newest versions of our printers, materials, software. We spend a lot of time on that specifically. So if you think of Formlabs, kind of what R&D's, what does our R&D look like? We have usually 3 groups. The first, of course, is our MEs. They're building the newest printers. You have our software team that's building the newest iteration of our preform slicing software, and of course, delivering all the firmware updates. And of course, the materials team and the material scientists that we use. We're just as much a materials company as we are a hardware company or a printer company. And that's where a lot of the magic happens at Formlabs. Some of the materials that we produce, we're constantly iterating on that. And again, we really focus on the R&D. So just want to give that quick introduction, just a short selection of what our offerings are. Again, we started with SLA. This has really been our bread and butter for the last decade. We've really just got into SLS. And again, really excited about this technology. This is something that I've been focused on and very excited about since we announced it back in 2018. And it's just been an exciting technology as it comes out into the world, right? We have some really exciting user stories that we're going to talk about today, really focusing on how customers are actually using SLS technology, not to just prototype, but actually build in-use functional parts for the products that they build. So that's going to be a lot of what we talk about today. But before we get into that, I just want to do just a quick refresh on what SLS or selective laser sintering is. Again, it's we're really focused on thermoset plastics, and it's a different process. Again, we still use a laser, but again, what we're really doing is taking a bed of powder, Nylon 12, for example, raising that to a specific temperature and using the laser to kind of center that last aspect, and then recoating, relayering. And we do that, whether it be 1,000 to 3,000 layers. This is more or less the process of SLS or selective laser sintering. This technology has been around for quite some time. I'd say since the 90s, but it's always been exclusive to capital intensive equipment, $500,000 spend to get into an EOS or some of these high-end SLS printers out there. So some of the benefits, you can build in-use parts. You have tremendous design freedom, a lower material cost, and high productivity and throughput. So these are some of the benefits specifically to SLS. Some of the use cases, so I like to kind of just expand this out. This is a range of applications from iterating on the far left to building actually in-use production parts on the far right. And right below that, you have kind of the journey that most people take, right? They start in FDM, they move into SLA to get a little bit more functional in their prototyping, and then they mature into SLS. And this is kind of the journey that we see on a regular basis. So we really want to cover a large end of that spectrum, from functional prototyping, maybe in SLA, to moving further down the line and maybe small to medium batch production with SLS. So just a quick refresh on the Fuse 1 and the Fuse SIFT. Again, this is a product we initially announced in 2018. And anyone in this space has always kind of had, has seen how the space has evolved, right? And this was one of my concerns going into it was, were we going to just delay the product and then check the box and say we do SLS? And it's really one of the most well-engineered products we've ever built. And we're SLA people, right? Dipping into SLS. It's one of a kind. And it really comes down to answering those two key questions, right? How do we make it easy? How do we make it versatile? So just a quick introduction. A huge benefit of SLS is obviously those in-use parts you're able to make. Another big component, of course, is complexity in the geometries that you're building. A huge benefit to printing in a powder-based system or SLS is that you don't have to worry about support structures. You don't have to worry about the complexity of your geometry in the same way that you do with FDM or SLA. You can print the part. There's powder built, each layer of powder creates its own support structure. So all you have to do is dust that part off, and you have that in-use functional part. So that's the fuse. The fuse sift is the secondary component. This is part of why we had the initial delay with the SLS product, is we wanted to redevelop the ease of use with regards to using an SLS-based system. So the fuse sift is the system that's going to essentially post-process your parts, but it's also going to mix the powder for you, right? So it's a self-contained unit. Most folks who have had experience with SLS in the past have had to have a very self-contained room. You had to think a lot about the environment for a powder-based system. The sift really changes that game, really drives a lot of our ease of use, the way we think about these ecosystems of printers in the work environment. So, we have folks that will have their own setup in a WeWork to a factory floor to an office environment. The sift really allows you to do that because it's self-contained. It's going to mix the powder for you. There's a lot of huge benefits, and again, it's a really well-engineered product. So I just want to do a quick highlight on those two components. There's 3 materials available. We will be talking about our carbon filled material with the Fuse One Plus a little bit later on this presentation. But I wanted to give you kind of a spectrum, a snapshot of kind of where this fits. So on the top there, you have the 3 materials currently available: Nylon 11, 12, Nylon 12 glass filled. Kind of where they stack on just the stiffness level or the tensile modulus. Right, Nylon 11 is right around polypropylene. Nylon 12 right next to ABS, and Nylon 12 glass filled again right above PVC. And right below that, you have just our traditional SLA materials. Right, those are in blue. Some of you folks who have used our SLA products might be familiar with those. But I just want to give you a spectrum. Orange is traditional materials people have traditionally used outside of 3D printing. This is kind of how our materials stack up: our high-end engineering resins, and of course, our SLS materials. So I just want to give you that snapshot. But really what I want to talk about today is how people are interacting with these products. How are they using them on a day in, day out basis with their workflows, with what they're making, how they're thinking about design. And we really want to focus on users that are using in-use parts. So that's what I've really highlighted. The first one up is Commute. Again, they do mobility systems. They're based out of Michigan. And they had traditionally been doing a lot of FDM prototyping, and they're looking for a much better surface finish, but most importantly, environmental resilience is really what they're looking for. And they wanted to test it out, right? They knew they were going to get functional prototypes with the Fuse One, but they wanted to see if they could actually bring it out into the field and start producing in-use parts. And mission accomplished. That's what they actually got accomplished here. That you can see 3 to 4 different examples of some of the parts that go on these mobility systems, from the side wings to the rear mounting bracket. Our Fuse One and the parts that it creates is actually going out in the field on these mobility systems in Michigan. Another great example is some of the work we're doing with Vital, which is a automotive design company based out of the UK. They focus on a lot of the major OEMs out there, from McLaren. They work a lot with Formula One. They're doing a lot of prototyping, a lot of the concept vehicles, and it's a design shop, right? So they're really focused on how to go to market quickly, how to really shorten the amount of time needed to create the concept vehicles for these organizations. And this is just a quick snapshot of some of the components they're getting into, but the amount of automotive OEMs out there, the amount of parts that need to go into a car, the complexity of, the living hinges or the rear door mounts or the calipers on these vehicles, they're really able to iterate quite quickly. They've had a lot of success in terms of that iteration process. They have a bank of Fuse Ones. They actually have 4 Fuse Ones in-house. They'll iterate successfully across all 4 using different materials, from our glass filled to our Nylon 12 to our Nylon 11, and really figure out what makes the most sense for this living hinge, for this rear door mount, and they can iterate rather quickly. In fact, they really bring to market some of these concepts in a very, very economical and efficient fashion. So these are just some of the examples. If you hadn't had a chance, take a look at what Vital Auto is doing. It's very exciting stuff. X-Spectre is essentially a surveillance manufacturing company. They do these specific mounts for vehicles. Same kind of concept. They were initially kind of just prototyping with FDM, but they really saw what they could get accomplished with SLS and the fuse one. It's their first SLS solution. They're ramping up to about 6,000 parts a year. And they're really ramping up the amount of fuses they have in house. But the series, these components, there's probably 15 to 30 different components that they assemble for these car mounts that they have. So again, in-use parts, strictly built on the fuse one. We're tired of outsourcing to a series of different suppliers that weren't meeting their expectations, but their timeline expectations as well. Really excited about what the fuse one can do for them. The last one I was going to mention is Battle Beaver, which does very essentially customer gaming experiences through do-it-yourself parts, gaming controllers. Very similar story, right? They're building a lot of these components, the custom mods, the rear buttons. They're all doing this on the Fuse One, right? And they used to outsource this. There's a tremendous timeline in terms of getting these parts back. And the amount of iteration needed, right? The amount of different designs that are coming out through these gaming consoles was causing a lot of headache. And so now they currently have 2 Fuse Ones in house, and they're able to iterate their, if a different design comes out for PlayStation, they're able to really turn that around rather quickly. And again, they're building in-use parts with the Fuse One. So I really want to focus on that. Some of what customers are doing, a lot of people are doing functional prototyping. A lot of people are really starting to move into small to medium batch production with the things that they create, they manufacture. So we have had a chance, the Fuse One launched last year, January 2021. And we want to get some feedback, right? What are people asking for? What's missing? Where do we need to, and this is across all our Fuse One customers. Where can we iterate? Where can we improve this product for the future, for your future needs? Material options was number one, right? We want more material versatility. And they want to see how close we can get to driving down material cost, print time, and really overall just driving down, the cost per part, right? Increasing the ROI. This is a lot of the feedback we received. And this is really what got us to the point that we needed to iterate on the Fuse One. How do we make this better? How do we really get to that next level? And that's when we came out with the Fuse One Plus 30-watt SLS system. So really what we're trying to get accomplished is we want to increase or decrease the amount of time it took to print, increase the material versatility available, lower the refresh rate, which of course is going to increase the ROI, lower the cost per part. Just a quick definition of refresh rate, because I know this comes up on a regular basis. Refresh rate is the ratio of new versus used powder you use per build, right? So if you think about refresh rate, when someone says 20% refresh rate, what they're saying is you need to add 20% new powder to that build. So we want to lower that refresh rate. I think some of our materials like Nylon 11 has a 50% refresh rate. So it's that 50% new versus 50% used. We want to get that lower, which we did with the Fuse One Plus. And just a quick product comparison between the two, right? I think one of the main distinctions here is a much higher power laser than what we have on the Fuse One. So that's going to increase print speed. It's going to increase the range of materials. So we did, in conjunction with this launch a new material, Nylon 11 carbon fiber material. It does have the ability to have a inert gas setup. So it's optional. You can print in, just like you do with the Fuse One. Of course, you can hook up nitrogen for that inert gas environment. It's going to improve recyclability or refresh rate. It's also going to enhance the material properties, like, for example, on Nylon 11. And that really, just a quick product comparison between the two. And another thing just to keep in mind, these are going to be complementary products, right? We're not going to discontinue the Fuse One. The Fuse One is going to continue in the future. We're going to continue development on the Fuse One. We look at the Fuse One Plus as an iteration, a complement to what we already have with the Fuse One. So just keep that in mind. Again, nothing's going into life. Fuse One Plus is going to be a complement and a great choice to, if you have additional printer capacity or if you need more printer capacity, it's a great option to bring that second unit on board. Okay, so Let me just click to the next slide here. A couple of things to keep in mind. Again, it's a 30-watt laser, 110 micron layer height. All the Fuse One accessories that you might have already with your Fuse One will be compatible with the Fuse One Plus. And as I mentioned, it does have a nitrogen input. So again, this is an option associated. Again, you do need that nitrogen setup. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but there's a lot of benefits to bringing that in-house if you don't already. So again, superior print speeds, industrial grade materials, much higher ROI with regards to refresh rate, packing density, powder recyclability with the Fuse One Plus. And these are some things we'll really kind of highlight in detail here. The first one, of course, is superior print speeds, right? So that laser obviously is going to increase the speed. It's up to 2 times faster than the Fuse One. And right now we have this dialed in for Nylon 12. Obviously, it's going to be dialed in for the rest of our materials. But to give you a couple of examples of what that looks like, we obviously have we're HQ'd out of Boston. We have a lot of commuters, a lot of people. This is a very common example that we have in-house. In fact, a lot of folks will iterate with this specific bike seat and use them themselves. But just to give you a snapshot between the Fuse One Plus, we had a 24% decrease in print time, right, based on this specific build. Another good example, this is just a shaft coupling from a traditional OEM. Again, full build, 58% packing density, 4 kilos of material. We reduced print time by roughly half, right? So from almost 3 days to roughly a day and a half. So just a couple of examples of how the Fuse One versus the Fuse One Plus interacts with speed and throughput. Zero waste printing. So there's a lot of recyclability when you inject the inert gas environment into it. So a much lower refresh rate. Most materials can now print at 30%. Nylon 11 was on the original Fuse One was at 50%. We've been able to reduce that down to 30%. So that's 30% new powder and 70% recycled. That does require the nitrogen atmosphere, but it also, again, there's a lot of reasons why you want to have an inert gas setup for this machine. So the next component is obviously the industrial grade materials. So there's going to be materials that do require a 30-watt laser inert gas environment to really get the material properties you need to get the complexity in that material. Nylon 11 carbon fiber powder is the first one that we've launched. Again, really excited about what it brings to the table. There's 2 things we're constantly thinking about at Formlabs. That is, how do we make it easy? I think we really dialed that in with the Fuse One. How do we make it more versatile? The Fuse One Plus is part of that, answering that question, right? How do we extend the range of materials available in SLS with the Fuse One Plus? And Nylon 11 carbon fiber is the one we've just launched. So this is going to be our 4th material available on our SLS line. Again, great material to work with, perfect for in-use applications that require high stiffness, superior strength. Great potential replacement for metal parts, right? Think about manufacturing aids, jigs and fixtures, high impact equipment. Again, really excited about this. And again, very competitive refresh rate at roughly 30%. That's 30% new powder versus 70% recycled powder. So just to give you an idea of kind of what that powder looks like. A couple additional benefits to the Fuse One Plus, right? We added an agitator to the bottom of the hopper here, so it's going to allow for a more efficient powder flow. It's going to increase the precision with interlayer recoating. So just a couple of hardware enhancements we've actually built into the Fuse One Plus here. And just to speak on the inert gas atmosphere, we want to give you a snapshot kind of what this looks like. Again, this is optional. You can still print without a nitrogen supply if you so choose, but there are some tremendous benefits to actually having this setup, right? Prevents material oxidation during printing. There's going to be certain materials that we come out with in the future that will require a nitrogen environment. Carbon fiber is one of them. And so, yeah, just to give you an idea, lower refresh rate, more consistent mechanical properties. And again, you're seeing that we see that quite a bit with our Nylon 11 based materials, whether it be just Nylon 11 or Nylon 11 carbon fiber, excuse me. So again, today it was really just a quick kind of snapshot on kind of what we're doing over here at at Formlabs, the Fuse One Plus, kind of what that brings to the table. Something we're really excited about. We're actually going to have a lunch and learn at HQ with Dynamism next week in Chicago. So if you get a chance and you're in the area, definitely scan this, register. There's going to be an in-house, there's going to be a workflow demonstration. They're going to showcase the Fuse One and obviously the Sift and Crotch. I know you're going to be on site for this event, right?
Yes, I will be.
So I was just kind of curious, what's on the agenda?
So we're offering free samples as well. So if anyone wants to just sign up for the link, they can send us an STL file, and we'd be happy to print the sample and kind of give them a hands-on experience on how to depowder the part, go through it, and give them all the print data. So it's going to be a pretty hands-on lunch and learn if people want to experience how the Fuse system works.
Fantastic. Yeah, so definitely if you guys are in the area, 10 to 3 p.m. Central Standard. I know that scan will give you the exact address, but again, really excited. It's one thing to see the Fuse. It's another thing to get in there and do some of the post-processing and engage with the Sift. It's a really exciting machine to interact with. So definitely take advantage of that.
Well, and there's food and drinks, right?
That too, right? Exactly. And just one quick note, if you guys have any questions on this, obviously we're going to answer those today, but definitely don't hesitate to reach out with Dynamism. Hopefully when you do, it's an application that Formlabs can solve, but again, they're very agnostic. It's how do we solve this problem effectively, efficiently, based on what's in front of us. Again, they're very agnostic with the best of breed technology they bring in-house. So definitely reach out to them if you guys have any questions. And again, we want to keep it short and sweet today. So, we're going to move right into the Q&A. I think there's a little delay on my screen there. Sorry about that. Dom, is there any questions?
There are none I see in the Q&A. If anyone has any, please submit them now. But I will just reiterate, thank you for attending in general. If you are interested in learning more about the Fuse, we have a lot of resources on our website. We're also constantly sharing Formlabs and social media pushes, so go ahead and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. And like Levi and Raj said, our lunch and learn is next Wednesday, 10 to 3. Even if you're not interested in the Fuse, just come by for some free food and drink and to talk to our team of engineers. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any and every question. But I am not seeing any questions in the Q&A. So Levi, do you have anything else you would like to add, or?
Not off the top of my head. I think we covered quite a bit, but I know this will be, this will be obviously hosted by Dynamism. They'll have this recording. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to them. Again, really excited about this iteration. This is something you're going to see on a regular basis, and really looking forward to expanding the range of applications, the range of materials with our SLS product line. So really appreciate you taking the time today. Everyone have a great rest of the week.